Trump's special envoy to Kyiv, General Keith Kellogg, has suggested that Ukraine could be divided into zones of control resembling post-Second World War Berlin. Speaking to The Times, Kellogg proposed a model in which British and French troops would form a reassurance force in western Ukraine, while Russian forces would remain in the east. He added that Ukrainian forces would hold the central line, separated by a demilitarized zone. Notably, Kellogg stated that the United States would not deploy any ground troops as part of such a plan. Kellogg also proposed creating an 18-mile demilitarized zone in eastern Ukraine along the current front line to act as a buffer between Russian and Western troops. Kyiv has not yet responded to Kellogg's remarks. However, on April 12th, Keith Kellogg doubled down on his statement and denied that he suggested partitioning Ukraine. He further said that The Times misrepresented his words. President Donald Trump issued a rare warning to Russian President Vladimir Putin on the Truth social platform ahead of planned discussions between Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and the Russian leader. Putin was later seen on Russian state television greeting Witkoff in St. Petersburg's presidential library, where talks reportedly lasted over 4 hours. According to the Kremlin, the meeting centered on aspects of a Ukrainian settlement. Russia's investment envoy, Kirill Dmitriev, described the talks as productive. Ukraine's international backers have pledged a record €21 billion, approximately $24 billion, in additional military assistance. The announcement was made at a meeting of the Ukraine Defence Contact Group held in Brussels and co-hosted by the United Kingdom and Germany. British Defence Secretary John Healey criticised Russian President Vladimir Putin for what he described as a delay in ceasefire negotiations. The meeting at Ramstein included representatives from over 40 countries. The United States did not attend in person, but was represented virtually by Trump's Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged allied nations to provide at least 10 additional Patriot air defense systems. Addressing the Ramstein gathering via video link, Zelensky argued that continued Russian missile and drone attacks prove that Moscow is not serious about peace. Zelensky also noted that Ukraine is willing to purchase new air defense systems, not just receive them through aid.
З президентом Сполучених Штатів Америки, з президентом Трампом. Україна не просто просить, ми готові купити відповідні додаткові системи. І саме сильна зброя – єдине, чому можна довіряти – захист життя, маючи такого сусіда, як Росія. Щоб українські діти могли навчатись в безпеці просто в школі, не онлайн, а офлайн, нормально, як в Америці, як всюди в Європі. І не в таких підземних класах, які можуть дати більше безпеки, але які ніде не повинні бути нормою, а просто в школах.
He also announced increased government spending on electronic warfare as part of wider efforts to bolster Ukraine's defensive capabilities. Negotiations between the United States and Ukraine over access to the country's mineral resources have stalled amid what sources describe as a highly antagonistic atmosphere. According to a Reuters report, the impasse is largely due to the Trump administration's most recent proposal, which Ukrainian officials view as overly expansive compared to earlier drafts. A US Treasury Department spokesperson confirmed the talks were held, describing them as technical in nature.
I can confirm that Mr. Witkoff is in Russia to have direct communications with the Kremlin and with Vladimir Putin. This is another step in the negotiating process towards a ceasefire and an ultimate peace deal in Russia and Ukraine. As these negotiations are ongoing, I obviously will not get ahead of the president or his team, but I think the president has been quite clear that he's been continually frustrated with both sides of this conflict, and he wants to see this fighting end. He wants the war to end. We believe we have leverage in negotiating a deal, to a peace deal, and we're going to use that leverage, and the president is determined to see this through.
Russia's Ministry of Defense has claimed that it destroyed 13 Ukrainian drones within a 30-minute period late on Friday evening. 9 were downed over the Rostov region and 4 over Kursk, both of which border Ukraine. In turn, Ukraine's Air Force reported intercepting 24 drones launched by Russia over the past day. It added that an additional 13 drones likely failed to reach their targets due to electronic countermeasures. One ballistic missile was also reportedly launched by Russian forces. American intelligence sources have confirmed that more than 100 Chinese nationals are fighting alongside Russian forces in Ukraine. 2 individuals of Chinese origin were recently captured by Ukrainian troops in the east of the country. US officials believe the Chinese fighters are mercenaries and not directly connected to Beijing. However, a former Western intelligence officer told Reuters that Chinese military officers have been present behind Russian lines with official approval in order to observe and learn from the conflict. Ukrainian parliamentary speaker Ruslan Stefanchuk has indicated that martial law is likely to be extended before its current expiration date of the 9th of May. He stressed that free and fair elections are not feasible under current wartime conditions.
І мені здається, що український парламент підтримає і в черговий раз і продовження воєнного стану, і продовження мобілізації в Україні, тому що, ще раз кажу, війна не завершена. Війна триває, тому держава має дбати на національну безпеку, яка є. І тому ми повинні усвідомлювати, що це також ще одне питання, з яким нам треба. А щоб ці вибори, вони дали можливість усьому світу сказати так, поствоєнна Україна, яка перемогла у цій війні, провела демократичні вибори, які визнає увесь світ. Оце для мене є пріоритетом, тому що Україна завжди була історично, є зараз і залишатиметься демократичною країною з верховенством права, з повагою один до одного. І це, мені здається, те, що якісно відрізняє нас від Російської Федерації, від цього окупанта. І взагалі в цьому питанні ми знаходимося з ними на двох берегах цивілізаційної прірви.
Despite growing pressure from both the United States and Russia for Ukraine to hold a vote, Stefanchuk maintained that the country remains committed to democratic principles. However, he underlined the legal and logistical barriers posed by ongoing conflict and occupation.